Moving into a new house is supposed to be an exciting and fresh start, but my experience was anything but that. My husband, John, and I had found what seemed like the perfect house in the suburbs. Spacious, charming, and within our budget. Little did we know that our new home would be the setting of chilling events that would haunt us forever. From the moment we stepped inside, I had an uneasy feeling. The air was heavy, and the shadows seemed to dance in unsettling patterns. I tried to dismiss my unease as normal moving jitters, but deep down, I knew something was amiss. The first strange occurrence happened on our second night in the house. I woke up to the sound of whispering voices, soft and incomprehensible. At first, I assumed it was my imagination, but when I glanced at John, he was fast asleep, undisturbed. The voices continued for several minutes before fading away, leaving me feeling on edge. I chalked it up to the stress of moving and tried to get back to sleep. As the days passed, the whispers returned at odd hours, always when I was alone. John never heard them, and my attempts to capture the voices on my phone were in vain. But the whispers were only the beginning. Objects began to move inexplicably. A misplaced set of keys, a picture frame that shifted on its own. I tried to convince myself it was just the house settling, but the unsettling feeling lingered. One evening, as I was cooking dinner, I heard the distinct sound of footsteps above me, even though John was at work. I froze, the knife in my hand trembling. I mustered the courage to investigate, but as I climbed the stairs, the footsteps stopped and the upper floor was empty. Frightened and desperate for answers, I reached out to a neighbor, an elderly woman who had lived in the area for decades. She seemed hesitant at first, but eventually she revealed that the previous owners had abruptly moved out, claiming the house was haunted. Curiosity and fear drove me to investigate further. I dug into the house's history, and what I uncovered sent shivers down my spine. Decades ago, the house had been the site of a tragic accident. A fire that claimed the lives of a family who had lived there. The pieces of the puzzle began to fit together, and it seemed like the restless spirits of the past were still lingering within the house. I knew I had to confront the paranormal occurrences head on. One night, as the whispers grew louder and the shadows seemed to converge, I decided to reach out to the spirits. Armed with a candle, I sat in the center of the living room and softly called out to them. Please, if there are spirits here, you no harm. We are the new occupants of this house, and we want to live in peace. The air grew still, and the house seemed to hold its breath. For a moment there was nothing but silence, and then a soft breeze brushed against my cheek. I knew they had heard me. As days turned into weeks, the activity in the house intensified. Doors slammed shut on their own, and cold spots seemed to follow me from room to room. John began to notice my distress and urged me to seek professional help. Reluctantly, I contacted a paranormal investigator. A team of experts arrived with their equipment ready to document any unusual activity. I was relieved to have someone else acknowledge the strange occurrences, but their presence seemed to provoke the spirits further. During their investigation, the investigators captured chilling eveps, electronic voice phenomena, of the whispers that had haunted me from the beginning. They even claimed to have seen fleeting apparitions out of the corner of their eyes. The house's energy seemed to surge, and I feared that we had awakened something far more sinister than we could handle. The investigators advised us to consider leaving, but financial constraints tied us to the house. As the days passed, the house became an unbearable place to live. The constant sense of being watched and the overwhelming fear made everyday life a nightmare. My relationship with John strained under the weight of the paranormal turmoil. One fateful night, as we sat in the living room, the TV flickered and shut off on its own. The lights began to flicker and a guttural growl filled the air. Panic set in, and I knew we couldn't stay any longer. Gathering what little courage we had left, we decided to confront the spirits one final time. Hand in hand, we stood in the center of the living room and spoke in unison. We release you from this house. Go towards the light and find peace. We mean you no harm, but we cannot stay here any longer." With that, a sense of calm washed over us, and the malevolent energy seemed to recede. The house fell silent, as if the spirits had heard our plea and had finally found the closure they had been seeking for so long. The next day, we began the process of selling the house. Though it was a difficult decision, we knew it was the only way to escape the clutches of the unexplained. As we drove away from that once charming house, a mixture of relief and sadness washed over us. The haunting memories of our time in that new house will forever linger, a reminder that sometimes there are things beyond our comprehension. The spirits of the past can be relentless, and the boundaries between the living and the dead can blur in the most unexpected ways.